It's great to be here, and again, I'm just thrilled to be here, and it's been a lot of fun over the last several years getting to know so many of you at conventions, and I always feel like I'm among friends when I get to see you, and it has also been really exciting and great for me to be able to share with you each year a little bit more about what we do and why what you do for CURE is so significant. I hope that you won't be disappointed this year that I didn't bring anyone with me. It's just me. You're stuck with just me this year. But but I'm going to share with you, I wasn't planning to share a whole lot about our personal story, but I will share whatever you're interested in hearing. So my objective tonight in speaking with you is really twofold. One is for you to leave here tonight with a much, much better understanding of CURE and what we do and what we've been doing over the past year with the money that you've invested in us. I wish I could have brought my whole team. You would have been blown away by the incredible women that I work with and their passion for finding cures for children with cancer. And I'll do my best to try to represent them. And then I also want you to leave here really knowing and feeling with conviction that your support is where it should be, and feel really good about that. And that you know that how deeply appreciated it is. So first I just want to say thank you, not just for the incredible donation you presented today, which completely blew me away, but the support that you've given us over all these years. Since 2003, now with your check today, you've donated to, I got to do some quick math because I didn't know, but about $290,000 to CURE. Just remarkable. That really is remarkable. And as I said this morning, we know that you've worked really hard to raise the money that you've given us, and we have accepted it with gratitude and humility, and I want you to know that we have been really, really good stewards of that money and have invested it in scientifically sound research, which is benefiting all children with cancer across the country, really around the world, because the United States is a leader when it comes to childhood cancer research. So this morning I gave you all a flyer that had some what I think are pretty staggering statistics, which I hope made an impression on you about why the cause of childhood cancer is an important one to support. I think it's important, though, to step away from the statistics and to think about children. Young children, infants, my son was only a month old when he was diagnosed, toddlers, preschoolers, to elementary school kids up through teenagers. I know many of you all have grandchildren in these age groups, so take a second and think about your own grandchildren and what they do on a day-to-day basis. Hopefully, your grandchildren are having normal childhood experiences, like going to preschool or school, elementary school, doing ballet and gymnastics or soccer and basketball, baseball. Maybe you have a grandchild who plays music, is in the band, or maybe in a dance club. I bet some of you have Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts among your grandchildren. And undoubtedly some of you have teenage grandchildren who are learning to drive, and maybe at this time of year going to homecoming and thinking about maybe what colleges to apply to. So these are all the things that we expect children to be doing. The challenges that we expect them to be facing are things like getting good grades in school, or maybe dealing with someone at school who's not being very nice, or what I'm dealing with now, teenage drama, which comes from first loves and breakups and being in the cool crowd one day and out of the cool crowd the next day. And I think that it's why childhood cancer takes such an emotional toll on communities when it hits. And it's because battling cancer with chemo infusions and radiation and spinal taps and all of the things, long hospitalizations where kids are isolated from their friends and they can't go to school. And all of these things are so far outside of our picture of what's normal for a child to have to go through. Toddlers who are battling for their lives, and that's really what these kids are doing. And teenagers who are, like I said, isolated from their peers for years at a time is just not what any of you, I know, want your grandchildren to have to deal with, or what I want my children to be going through. So as I said, my own child was diagnosed with cancer at just a month old. He was an infant. It was so wrong to me to have an infant battling cancer. It felt to me like, especially because he was born 2 days after 9/11, it felt like the world was just spinning on its head. To have a newborn with cancer felt like some kind of apocalypse was happening in the world. And so this is why we're so passionate about finding cures for children with cancer. There are 14,000 children every year diagnosed with cancer, and they are not able to have the normal childhood experiences that they should be having. And I believe we can cure them if we just invest the money to try to do so. And so in supporting CURE, you all are doing your part to help all of these children in every state in this country. In the past 5 years alone, CURE has funded some of the most innovative research being done to find cures for cancers which affect children. And I mentioned this morning that they're very different than the cancers which affect adults. We've invested in specific research that's being done at Emory University in Atlanta, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, St. Jude Research Hospital in Memphis, Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York, MD Anderson in Texas, and Washington University. Right now we're talking with scientists in Toronto, in Los Angeles, Ohio, and Seattle about working together on specific projects next year. So I just wanted you to know that we are funding the best research that's being done in the country for childhood cancer. And I also want to point out that where the research is being done really isn't the most important thing at all. In the world of childhood cancer, and this is very different than in adult cancer research or even in research dealing with other diseases, the work is being done very collaboratively. So the scientific community came together years ago knowing and recognizing that their resources are so limited and formed a collaborative group called the Children's Oncology Group. And this group does research all together as a group, and so it's like one puzzle. And every bit of research is a piece of that puzzle. And so what's being done in, let's say, Seattle is part of the puzzle, and just like Boston and Arizona and Atlanta and Texas and all of these doctors come together twice a year and they share information, and then they go back to the field and they work, and then they get back together and they share information. And so this is really a great process. So by supporting CURE, you're supporting a piece, and I believe more than one piece of that puzzle. And as I said, the discoveries that are made with the help of you and other supporters will benefit and be shared and benefit all children with cancer. We are also, as an organization, supporting families who are battling cancer today, and also those who have lost children to cancer. That's a really important part of what we do. We're supporting families who have survivors who are dealing now with serious effects from the treatment they received in order to cure them. The effects of the treatment on this generation of survivors are showing themselves to be pretty difficult. Bone destruction from radiation and many years of steroids. Heart failure from chemo and radiation. I just met a young woman a couple of months ago who had cancer in her rib as a child and received chemo and radiation, which caused her to go into acute heart failure when she was 30, and she received, fortunately, a heart transplant at the Cleveland Clinic. And so these are the issues that these young kids are dealing with. So what we're seeing now in Survivors is telling us that we have to do more than just cure these kids. We do, of course, we want them to live, and that's our number one priority. But we are now, right now, we're leaving those who were able to save with entire lifetimes filled with extremely difficult health challenges. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal in June that reported that 95% of childhood cancer survivors are dealing with very difficult health conditions by the time they're 40 years old. That, to me, was staggering. That is almost all of them. So what I tell people is that we are trying to save lives, absolutely, but we're also at Cure trying to save lifetimes. It's not enough just to cure them and then leave them debilitated for their entire adult lifetimes by the treatment that we give them. So all this is just to explain that the reach of Cure goes far beyond any state lines, and in addition to the research, we have provided assistance, family assistance to families in 19 states this year. The form of support has been mostly family emergency assistance for families who are struggling financially as a result of their child's diagnosis and lengthy course of treatment, and also transportation assistance, whether a family has to travel many, many miles within their own state or across state lines, that transportation burden can be very significant. And so we've really been able to provide significant help to families all over the country with those kinds of expenses. And then I mentioned just briefly this morning, and I'm so excited that we have launched a counseling program. One of the childhood cancer absolutely affects every member of the family, from the parents to the siblings to the patient themselves, and we feel like it's really important in order to help that family get through that very traumatic experience to make counseling available to them and take away the barrier that keeps them from getting what they need, which is so often cost. So we're working with a network of counseling centers to be able to make this available to families. I'm really excited about that. So I hope that you can see and understand how passionate I am about Cure and the work that we're doing for these children. I've been with the organization now for 7.5 years, and I truly believe that this work is my life's purpose, that it is my calling. When my son Brandon was diagnosed with neuroblastoma at a month old, and I was introduced to this whole world of childhood cancer, it really changed me. It just changed me. And you know, my son, fortunately, was one of the lucky ones. He survived, and in September of this year, he turns 12. And I'm excited. He's an all-boy, plays hockey, as tough as they come. So I'm very thankful, of course, that he survived. But what I saw were children and families suffering, something that I had never imagined before I saw it. And I just couldn't go back to life as I knew it before, knowing then what families were dealing with. So in 2004, I left my job as a lawyer for a large law firm in Atlanta to become a full-time advocate for children with cancer. First, I worked with a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C., and then after about 1.5 years with them, I moved to Cure. And the reason that I came to Cure was because I felt like I could be a lot closer to the children and families who were actually in the trenches than I could with the organization in Washington that was sort of, you know, in the ivory tower away from the real trenches. And I needed to be close to the children. So I joined Cure Joy to Cure then. I wish that I had time to share with you the stories of the children I've met over the years who absolutely have fueled, in many cases, broken my heart, but at the same time, fueled my passion for fighting this disease. The personality of these kids is just, I don't know, it's hard to describe how these kids can be going through what they are, but yet have the sweetest spirits. And I love going to the hospital and seeing the little sassy girls with their hands on their hips and their IV poles all decorated, and they're just being kids, or the toddlers on their, and this happens, it really does, on their tricycles, riding around the nurses' stations with their moms pushing their IV poles. They are just kids, and they are not consumed with their disease like the rest of us are. But I do want to take a minute and share two stories with you. These two children have really impacted my life in significant ways, and I think both of their stories really illustrate the importance of the research that Cure is driving. Some of you, I think, Kelly and Barbara, forgive me because I'm going to talk about him again. You've heard me talk about this little boy, Carter. And I printed off their pictures because I want you to see these children who I'm talking about.